Welcome to the new Corvette ZR1, an absolute middle finger to every supercar on sale. Chevy has taken what we all thought the ZR1 would be and cranked it to 111. You are looking at the first ever turbocharged Corvette, and it has twin turbos. But the thing is, they didn't add some forced induction to the regular Stingray engine. They turbocharged the flat plane crank Z06 engine, which means the new Corvette ZR1 doesn't make 850 horsepower. It doesn't make 950 horsepower. No, this new rear-wheel drive ZR1 makes 1,064 horsepower.
1,000.
So this is similar to the Z06 engine, the LT6. Well, at least it has a similar block and crankshaft. But this is the LT7, meaning the ports and combustion chambers are different. The cam profiles and timing are different. It has additional oil scavenging, air-to-water charge coolers, and some anti-lag type trickery, all to make sure those two mono-scroll turbochargers can do their job of feeding extra air to the engine as fast as possible. And to keep up with the higher fuel demand, it has secondary port fuel injection. The transmission is the same 8-speed DCT that's been revised, with lighter gears, a stronger shaft, and improved lube. This engine, with 828 pound-feet of torque, should be a monster all the way through its rev range. A rev range, by the way, that goes all the way to 8,000 RPM.
Just to put that into perspective, this is a C6 2010 ZR1, and it's already an insane car. Woo! And that new ZR1 hits this car's peak horsepower of 638 at 4,100 RPM. That's halfway through its rev range. And it hits the C7 ZR1's peak horsepower of 755 at 4,750 RPM.
Nah, that's pretty cool. Don't get cutaways like that on Extra Throttle House. That is production, is what that is. Anyway, I asked GM why turbos versus the supercharger, because the ZR1s that Thomas just mentioned, those were supercharged and no one complained. And GM said that they went turbo over supercharger because they wanted to maintain a low rotating mass and it was a more efficient solution for increased power. Which is all well and good, but in the past and from our experience, turbocharged vehicles sound more muffled than their naturally aspirated or supercharged brothers. So here's a clip that we've recorded of the Z06. Here's a clip from GM of the ZR1, and you can be the judge if it's better or worse or the same. Alright, GM have given me some fun facts here, and in some ways they're quite stupid. So the turbos get up to 2/3 the temperature of the space shuttle on re-entry. Now I know you're thinking, how the hell do I identify with that number? Don't worry, we've translated it. It is the same temperature as the inside of a Pop-Tart. The exhaust produces 37 pounds of thrust. Also, don't know what that means. My reference frame for that is Thomas after a shawarma lunch. They also say the turbo blade tips spin at 1.7 times the speed of sound and can consume an Olympic swimming pool's area of air in 4 minutes. Hard to quantify, I know. Don't worry, we've done the science. That's the same amount as 500 million thimbles. Let's take a step back for a second though, because we're getting a bit silly. And even though this has some silly numbers going for it, it's not a silly car. In some ways, it looks a bit like a Z06, but in other ways, not so much at all, especially if you get it with the ZTK package, which this one has. So, front splitter, dive planes, same as Z07, as are the underbody strakes. However, come back here and you have the flow-through hood, which is immediately noticeable and reminds me, especially as it comes down here, of a 488 Pista, which is the special version of the Ferrari 488. So when I see this, I immediately think, that's special. If you get the ZTK, you get a taller carbon fiber gurney lip here. But yeah, I think that was really, really important to differentiate this, because otherwise they all start to look the same. We have new wheel options for the ZR1. These are the new carbon fiber wheels. Make of them what you will. I think they look pretty neat. There's also the option of an aluminium wheel. We have it here today in the edge blue finish, which tricks my mind into thinking that it's magnesium thanks to Porsche's Weissach package. It's not, it's just aluminium and it comes in 4 different finishes. Inside of those wheels sit some even larger carbon ceramic brakes, larger than the Z06, so the largest carbon ceramics ever fitted to a Corvette. And then wrapping the wheels on the ZTK package are the Cup 2Rs that we know and love from the Z07 package that have put down a ridiculous time on our test track. And then if you don't get the ZTK, you get some PS4Ss, which is interesting because the PSS5s are the new version of the PS4Ss, so I imagine that's just because they've been developing them with GM for ages and therefore they don't benefit from the PSS5s. We'll have to drive them to find out. Moving back, carbon fiber roof standard on ZR1, optional on Z07. The biggest thing is that this has the wishbone thing that we know as a recognition signal for a Z06, because it's quite hard to tell when you look at Corvettes in the wild. Until they get close, you don't know if they're a Stingray or a Z06, and this wishbone has been the biggest way to tell, except on the ZR1, there's an actual air intake here, a real functional thing. And it's subtle, but it's kind of cool. The biggest differentiator then is this big F-off wing. Like, come on. I'm not a big fan of the Z06 wing, the way it sort of does this all within the width of the body. That's more of like a sparrow's wing. This is an albatross. And this, in combination with everything else in the ZTK package, means that this car produces, at its top speed, over 1,200 pounds of downforce. Big number. Not as big as the Viper ACR with its extreme aero package, which does 1,700 pounds of downforce, or the 911 GT3 RS, almost 1,900 pounds of downforce. So basically, this is a tin can piece of crap. You can't buy it, it's absolutely not worth it. You also can't buy it in convertible form because you don't benefit from the extra air intakes that the coupe gets. And Americans, I'm sorry I'm saying coupe, I can't bring myself to say coupe. That's where chickens live, okay? On the coupe, we have these extra air inlets on the hatch right here. But perhaps more importantly, something more special is happening here. That is a split window. Something we haven't seen on a Corvette in 60 years. 1963 C2 Corvette. And anyone who knows Corvettes knows that that's a very special year and a very special trim. And the market shows that. If you try and buy a split window C2 Corvette, it's more than double the price of any other Corvette in that generation. That, I think, is GM's way of saying that this is rather special. Is it any more special inside? Well, at first glance, not really. This is the C8 Corvette that we've known for a while now. And yeah, if the word squircle triggers you, sorry, it's still a square steering wheel. I absolutely love it, no problem with it at all. We do have some ZR1 badging going on here, and we have some special ZR1 specific stitching on the door cards. And really the biggest thing is, for the first time ever in the gauge cluster, there is now a digital boost gauge. But yeah, I like this cabin. I've always liked this cabin. This is a new color, habanero. That's enough for me. Other differences you'll feel from the driver's seat is that they've changed the suspension tuning, so it has lower ride frequencies than the Z06, apparently better for livability. We'll find out when we try it. The ZTK package has different suspension spring rates, so that's even more track focused, but I'm told that doesn't make it unlivable, because I know that even like Camaro ZL1 1LE was way harsher than ZL1 non-1LE. Apparently it's not even going to be close to that level of compliance difference. There's a lot to absorb here, and not just the fact that this whole thing is now a sub 10-second quarter-mile, 1,000-something horsepower monster, but like, I just wasn't expecting it. And sometimes, have you ever come out of a film at the cinema and you're just like, I need to talk to someone about this? Yeah.